in a time and place where you can hack your body anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 33s have decided to level shit up.
And they're calling it Workationing Goes Biohacking.
Kristin Weitzel is here to switch on our warrior woman mode.
I'm here to help us slay it, even if we're slaying it from home.
What the fuck is Blue Cannatine?
All the cool kids in Silicon Valley are doing it.
What else do we need to know to take our bodies to the next level?
This is the Workationing Podcast.
So I am coming in hot from my isolation apartment in Amsterdam, and I am joined by Kristin Weitzel. And you're in LA, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
And you're sticking at home the whole time? You have rooftop access though at your place, don't you?
Yeah, I have rooftop access, but we're sheltered at home.
And how's that treating you so far?
It's all right. I'm a big extrovert, so it's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's definitely something we have to do. So I'm managing, learning a lot about myself.
The extroverts are really struggling right now. I've got some extrovert friends that are just like itching for some human interaction. And I'm pretty much an introvert, but I'm on like week 3.5. So it's starting to get to me a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure.
So Kristin is coming in hot from LA, but it wasn't that long ago that she was in my apartment filling my bathtub with ice.
Yes, that was awesome.
So a little bit of background, Kristin and I know each other from New Hampshire. She now lives in LA. I live in Amsterdam. Kristin, you were in town for a breathwork conference, right?
Yeah, I was actually in town for a breathwork for coaches. I've been coaching breathwork, and there's a guy there named Casper Vandermeulen who's just amazing. And he ran it was 25 people, so it wasn't really a conference, but it was great because it was an opportunity to really deep dive into more how to coach and how to shift your state with breathwork. So it was cool.
So Kristin what's your title, Kristin? Do you want to talk a little bit about your background and company?
Yeah, I came from a big corporate background and shifted over into health and wellness a few years back, but my business is called Warrior Woman Mode. And what I try to do is work with women specifically to optimize their wellness across all facets of life, to make them sort of better at what they're doing for work and for play and how they feel about themselves as they go into every day. And a big component of that is there's a lot of nutrition, there's a lot of fitness coaching, but there's definitely a lot of biohacking in there. And that's still a word people are getting familiar with. But it's like Dave Asprey, who's the godfather of this term biohacking, coins it as like the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside you so you can control your own biology.
I have been following you on social media for a long time, and your Instagram in particular gives me life. But there was a series that you did over the summer about cold showers and how you were challenging people to take a cold shower. And at the time I was in Turkey, it was very hot, and I was thinking to myself, you know what, I bet you I can give this a go. And I did it. I am a huge fan of hot showers. I love long showers. You typically could not get me in a cold water environment, but I bit the bullet, did it. And your posts were right. I felt great afterward.
Yeah, it was a series I did that was 30 straight days. I ended up doing 34, which if that tells you anything about how much I really liked it. But the series was I was doing ice plunges, but the goal was to get anybody to start with some sort of cold exposure practice in any way they possibly could. And yeah, so people were like taking cold showers, people were trying cold bathtubs, people were trying the ice. It was a great experiment, right?
So describe the ice plunge, because this is what got you filling my bathtub full of ice, were these posts. Can you describe what that looks like and what it does from a biohacking perspective?
Yeah, for sure. Well, as you mentioned before, I have a rooftop here. So you sort of do these crazy things sometimes as to set up a biohack, but I had driven to an agricultural supply shop and bought a metal trough. You can buy plastic ones too. They're about $100, $150. that's just sort of the cheapest way to do it. I put the ice trough on my rooftop, and then I would schlep a bunch of bags of ice up there and fill the tub with ice and water, of course. And setting that up and getting the temperature down to like sub 40 degrees Fahrenheit. No idea what that is in Celsius, but sub 40 degrees, and then getting in it for typically two rounds of 3 minutes each. It's sort of a nice number because the science sort of dictates between 2 and 3 minutes is where you really reap the benefits. And yeah, you got to step in and you got to submerge yourself.
You're sitting in an ice trough just to like visualize it.
Mine is like a silver metal feed trough, and I filled it with ice. So like something you may see people pot plants in, or a big, outdoors, or something you'd see like cattle eating out of in a field. It's like that.
And so you sit in that up to your neck in ice water.
Yes, and plenty of ice and really cold, super cold water.
For 2 rounds of 3 minutes each. But then do you want to talk about the submersion process? Because that was the real killer when I did it.
Yeah. So when people are first doing it, I ask people to step in slowly. Like, here's the thing. People are like, is it cold? It's obviously really cold, but
it's cold.
It's super cold. But the anticipation of the ice bath is worse than the ice bath itself. So how do you stand by the side of the ice bath? How do you step in and just continue the flow of movement so that you're sitting down, so that you're submerging yourself? Just quickly getting your neck and face and head under, because that triggers something called the mammalian response. And it gets your body to start the process of shunting the blood and slowing down processes so you can actually work with your breath in the ice to be able to manage the stress load. And so, you got to picture yourself, you sort of go under, the shock of the cold hits you, you come up, you probably take a little sip or gasp of air, depending on how you feel. Your hair's kind of wet and messy. You got everything dripping down your face. You're up to your neck, and then you have to sit as calmly as possible for 3 minutes or whatever's remaining in that ice bath experience. So it's definitely it's Insta worthy.
I did not feel Insta worthy when I did it. I felt like a frozen drowned rat. My response was just, I couldn't suck in enough air. I was so glad that prior to getting into the ice bath, we went out to dinner with my friend Tina, who's originally from Germany, but she lives in Amsterdam now. And when I said to myself, what kind of friend would do an ice bath challenge with me? Tina, the marathon runner, was the first person to come to mind. So we went to dinner, and Tina and I were gung-ho on knocking back at least 2 glasses of wine before doing this. Kristin put the brakes on that real fast. Why don't you want to have a couple cocktails with your girlfriends before you jump into an ice bath?
It's a great question, and it probably feels like that would make it a lot easier, but alcohol thins your blood. The way it works with constricting and vasodilating it's all counter to what you're doing in the ice bath. And I think if you ask me as a coach too, from a professional perspective, it's just, you're probably not ice plunging alone, but if you are, you just don't want anything to get in the way of the potential of you getting hurt or anything happening. So number one, it's going to make you colder. And number two, it's just there's a slight danger there, right? It's all you need is 2 inches of water to drown. So you have to kind of be cognitively functioning at the best level possible if you're going to go do that.
So at dinner, instead of having cocktails, what we had was a breathwork lesson. And Kristin, can you describe what...
God, you make it sound like I'm the most boring dinner companion on the planet.
No. Also, we were very nervous. We were so nervous. I knew I went out and we bought out how many stores of ice? Was it 4?
I know, that was amazing. In Amsterdam, there's every store just has a few bags of ice. It's not like here in the States where you can just go and they have a cooler out front or something. So we went to a few stores to get all the ice we needed. And if I had my way, I would have, found 1 or 2 more stores to get a bunch more bags. Cause it's as cold as you can get it. Cause your body temperature is high. So you got to get it cold. And so that's the hardest part of the whole experiment, is temping the water down.
Well, listen, I don't know about Tina, I won't speak for her, but I was not super excited about getting in the ice bath, especially not having had any liquid courage beforehand. But like, as I was carrying all of the ice, I was thinking to myself, this is going to make the water real cold and you're going to get into it. And conceptually, I was excited. Like on an intellectual level, I saw all of those videos through the summer of you like a champion getting in that ice bath. And I thought to myself, I bet you I have what it takes to do that. But you don't know until you try. And in my head, it was totally cool up until the point where I actually needed to step in. And then it was like, oh, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah. And it's like type 2 fun. You know what I mean? It's like type 1 fun is like, it's fun in the moment. Type 2 fun is like, after you're done, you're like, that was fun. It's like not during, it's not fun during in many ways, you know? But I think also the thing that's cool for me is because I've done so many now and coached so many people through them, is like, it actually, you get so adapted to it that like the thought of not having an ice bath once, twice a week, a couple times a month, more than that, whatever it might be, is actually like I miss it right now. It's harder to get ice. It's harder to get out. And so I'm actually missing not having it. And also, you don't want to lose the adaptability, right? If you ice bath once, you're going to get benefits out of it. But 2 years later, you will have lost a lot of that adaptability to the cold.
Let's dig into the adaptability thing a little bit more before we talk more about the breath work. I didn't think that you were a boring dinner companion at all. I was fascinated with all of it.
No, it's just funny. It's like, we were going to pop a bottle of wine. Instead, we were breathing.
Yeah. Tell me all your secrets, sister. Like, let me know how to get through this ice bath I'm about to take for 6 minutes. But so going back to did you say adaptogens or adaptability?
Adaptability, yeah. So the deal with the ice is like, and anything, quite frankly, that you're doing to optimize or raise your level of fitness, is you want to have the minimum effective dose. That sounds nerdy, but the deal with that just means, what level of stress can I put on my body that's safe, except that my body's going to recognize it enough that it knows it needs to change and improve to be able to do that again. So just like you go to the gym and you work out and you like tear a little muscle fiber when you're lifting heavy weights because they are heavy resistance against your strength, then those muscles heal and they heal stronger and better. And so that's the goal with the ice, is that you get in the ice and you're stressing your system enough that it is required to change in order for you to and adapt in order for you to do this the next time, or whatever the experience might be, right? To adapt to temperature change better. And that's all the way deep down into your cells. It's not just like a mindset thing or a heart rate thing or a blood thing, or it's like on a cellular level, you are shifting the capability from your mitochondria out to be better, faster, stronger.
What about how ice baths turn, white blood cells into brown fat cells? Or
yeah, so there's like the science is pretty deep of a rabbit hole. So it's not cells, it's actually adipose tissue. So when you're a baby, like we call it baby fat, you're born with all this brown adipose tissue, and you also have white adipose tissue. And the brown fat, let's just call it brown fat, adipose tissue is fat, and the white fat are very different, right? The white fat is the thing as a lady, let's say, you know, like, or we when we're like, oh, I want to get rid of the spare tire, or my booty needs work, or whatever the thing is, that's probably predominantly white fat. We need brown adipose tissue. It gets less and less as we get older. It has a really rich concentration of all like the good cells in it, and it helps us in many, many ways. But it's just, you can instigate a level of growth of that brown adipose tissue by the extreme temperature change. And so it's really hard to gain adipose tissue as we get older because we're losing it. So it's like, how do you maintain what you have, and how do you sort of spark it to have it grow a little bit more? And then it's like the white adipose tissue that we want to kind of get rid of, you know, like when we're wanting to lose fat. And so the cool thing, I think, is like when I did that 34-day challenge where I got into the ice every single day, 2 days were showers because I was on the road and I just couldn't score. I was in like Kentucky or something and I couldn't score ice in a tub and all that stuff.
love that you're talking about how you couldn't score ice like you couldn't score weed while you were traveling. You know?
Right?
I asked the cab.
Like, I was in like a Best Western, you know what I mean? And I was like, what do you mean you don't have an ice machine? You know? And then also it becomes a whole thing with that, you know, the hotel ice bucket is like the size of a cup, you know,
Yeah.
It's running back and forth. But yeah, so it's like those 34 days of doing cold exposure is what we call it in the nerd, you know, cold exposure, cold therapy world. Though those days I felt like I came out of day 34, I looked at myself in the mirror, if you will. I'm pretty fit. And I thought to myself, I've never had as much muscular definition or just like this lean look. It's not that it built muscle, it just made me so de-inflamed that I looked leaner than before. And I had a photo shoot 3 days later and people were like, damn girl, what have you been doing? And I was like, my routine is the same from a weightlifting standpoint and a fitness standpoint, like cardio, whatever. But the ice bath really changed that last 2 or 3%. That was like a really nice thing to walk into a photo shoot with, to be honest.
Yeah. So aside from are there any other physical benefits to ice bath therapy? What are they?
So I think the quick touch point is like cold showers are amazing and cryotherapy is great, but those are much more short-term benefits. That's like muscle recovery. So you're a little bit less sore. It is going to give you either an energy boost or set you up for sleep, sort of depending on how you respond to that. It's going to shift your nervous system state. You get cold water and you have a sympathetic response, which just means what you think it means. Oh shit, that's cold. And then you're in the cold water and you're figuring out how to stay in it. And then when you get out, you have a parasympathetic rebound. So your body goes, oh, okay, I finished that. I got through it. I survived it. Now I can just chill out and get more into rest and digest. And what that does is it sort of makes you more social, ups your focus, preps you for sleep if you're about to go to bed, etc. So there are benefits of that, of the cold shower and the cryotherapy, but the long-term deeper benefits that sort of build the balance and build the optimal wellness from your cells up really come in the ice bath. And that is about when you get in the ice bath, your body really cares a lot about your central nervous system, your organs, your heart, your lungs, and that's all in the core of your body. So it shunts all the blood into the middle of your body. And when you get out, it's like recirculating and flushing that blood to your extremities. So there's a detoxification function that happens in the midst of it. And also what's happening is you're getting your cells are adapting. And what they will do is they adapt and you go through this cold water processes. They start to say, okay, Kari means business. She's not effing around. She's going to do this again. We better be prepared or more prepared for next time. And it goes kind of looks at its own cellular structure and where are the cells that can survive this? Let's replicate those. Where are the ones that are kind of like the limping cells, right? For lack of a better word, the ones that aren't functioning optimally. And it kills them off. So it helps with that sort of that regenesis of keeping the good cells and going from there.
So this is all to say that we're not entirely crazy for taking ice baths, or in my case, just a ice bath. Full disclosure, I haven't done it again yet, but I will definitely. It's on my radar. It's on the to-do list. But the physical aspects aside, the reason why I was most interested in, I guess, the ice bath challenge, and also the reason why I was taking those cold showers in the summer, was because I have a very challenging job. I am mentally taxed in new and exciting ways, almost on a daily basis. And it's really easy to get stressed out and have, anxiety over a variety of things. And grabbing some sort of greater sense of control was what really drew me to first the cold showers and then the ice bath. Because if I can do that, if I can mentally stay there in that cold water, I can do all kinds of stuff. And it's not going to be as bad as the ice bath, probably. If I can do that.
It's not going to be as bad as the ice bath in some ways. Although in the beginning, for sure, I was like, I'd much rather be sitting in the ice for 3 minutes than being pelted by cold water. It always felt different to me. Now, ironically, I'm sitting here and I've had no hot water for 6 days because my hot water heater had something busted on it. And so the really cool thing is people are like, oh my God, do you need a shower? Whose house are you going to go to? How are you going to manage this? And I'm taking cold showers. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's just the irony of it all is that it adapted my body enough. Do I want a hot shower? Sometimes, sure, but I don't have the luxury right now and I'd rather be clean if I'm working out. So I take a cold shower. And it's just, I don't even have to suck it up. So you brought up this amazing point, which is the mental toughness and the mood boosting benefit of, there are tons of studies around sort of depression, PTSD, things like that, that are like talking about getting in the ice or getting in the cold shower and getting a boost of adrenaline, norepinephrine, and all these bliss chemicals in your brain that actually, you know, make you feel, number one, more positive spirited, especially when you get out. And number two, you build this resiliency and mental toughness that is, it's badass. You get in an ice tub for 2 rounds of 3 minutes, or you take a cold shower for 3 straight minutes, especially when you work up to getting in on cold and getting out on cold and never using that hot dial. And you're like, yeah, I conquered that. And so next time you're like sitting in your car in stress, or you're, you know, somebody's yelling at you, whatever, then you have the capability to be more adapted to any level of stress, right? 9 phones are ringing, your computer's buzzing, your Zoom call's going off, and you're like, I got this.
Yeah. No, I really, truly got out of that ice bath and the next day did taxes.
Yeah.
It's the power of the ice bath. Oh, we recorded the ice bath experience. Tina got in before me and then did her thing we decided instead of doing 2 rounds of 3 minutes, we would rather do 1 round of 6 minutes. And I was very excited about that 6-minute mark because I had just watched a couple of shows. I think the Goop Lab on Netflix, they did an episode on cryotherapy. And there was another show done by the Try Guys on YouTube where they went out and visited Wim Hof, Wimhof. He's a super famous breathwork guy, borderline crazy, I think. I don't know. I would go out to his cabin in the woods, hang out with him for a week.
He's just like super adapted. And the guy I studied with in Amsterdam there is like one of his people, like studied with him really closely, sort of next of kin style. So that's why I knew he was going to be a good breathwork teacher. So
you gave us a quick tutorial at dinner. Do you want to talk about the breathing recommendations that you made before we get into the ice bath experience?
Yeah, for sure. The breathing the breath is really the most important thing. Like if you look at the breath as the remote control for the nervous system, and the fact that you even noted when you spoke about standing next to the ice bath and anticipating it. And then I don't know do you feel like it made it worse or better for you to watch your friend go in first?
So Tina is a soldier. She like never complains. She has like basically no body fat. So, you know, when it's cold outside, you'd expect for her to be the first one to be like, oh, it's so cold. She doesn't really do that. She runs marathons for fun. One of her life goals is to run in all of the major marathons around the world. She's knocked out, I think, 3 of them. So when she got in and was not having a good time, and at one point said, I can't do this. I don't think I can do this. You talked her through it and she ended up doing it. But when she was like, oh, I can't do this, I was like, there is no fucking way. There is like a 0% chance. If the team taps out, I can make it. That's just
because that was interesting to me because you thought she would power it and it make you feel more confident, and it actually worked. It quite often works in the opposite direction anyway, because even though she had done some cold plunging, like it's just a different experience.
Yeah, so we filled up my big ass bathtub with ice and water. I thought that for sure it was a smooth 33 degrees. Kristin disagrees. Kristin, what temperature would you call that?
I mean, I bet that water was like in the 40, 45 range. It's not that it's wrong, right? It's just you try to stay longer or focus on being in the water longer if you have a higher temp. That doesn't mean 70-degree water is going to do you any good, but like obviously 45 degrees is still cold, really cold.
It was very, very cold. There was plenty of ice floating in that bathtub, but when you do it, it's mostly ice and a little bit of water, right?
Well, it's enough it's mostly ice and a bit of water, and it's like enough for me to still get in and submerge, and it depends on how hot it is here or whatever. But yeah, I have a pool thermometer, so I always make sure it's like 38 degrees or sub, and then I get in and do it there.
We didn't put salt in my bathtub ice. Do you put salt in your trough?
No, I don't use salt. It's like sort of this like wives' tale in a way. It's not going to temp things down fat. It's like great for a bottle of wine or champers, but it's not going to temp things down for your body in a way that's like making a big significant difference. I do put, because if I have a few people over to coach, or I have like a little friend gathering of like an ice plunge party, then I will put about a quarter of a cup of food grade hydrogen peroxide in the water, which just helps keep it clean, keep the bacteria down, any of that stuff. It basically functions like natural chlorines, but you don't have all that gross chemical. So that's just like a nice thing to do. And then some people will be like nerdy and put lavender salt or whatever, but they're just trying to get it to smell or whatever. For me, it's like functional. I'm not taking a bath. This isn't Calgon. I'm not going to spend like, 20 minutes in there. So I don't need it to smell good.
No, rose petals putting on top are not going to make the experience any better for me.
Totally. But the other thing you mentioned that's really important to know is that I think a lot of people, you don't have to have a coach to do it with you, but I think it helps a lot. But it's nice to have a buddy and to sort of just have some kind of decided protocol, conversation, thing they're going to do for you, whatever it is, like whether they're holding your hand or they're sitting next to you or they're just shutting up, because some people respond in the ice like that. The breath work is the most important thing. And there's a lot of schools of thought around it, but what I find works best with the women that I put in the ice, I put men in the ice, but mostly it's women, is nasal breathing. Because you get in and you have an initial response of superventilation, sort of where you're like, you're drawing in big inhales because your body's like, this is fucking cold. And so getting to a state of nasal breathing is really important. And then also I think stepping in calmly and paying attention to your breath. You're not going to be able to think about much of anything else, right? Remember how at dinner we talked about breath work and how it was going to be, and then I said, I'm going to tell you all this, and the minute you get nice, you're going to forget everything I just said.
Yeah, and I did.
And that's what happens. And that's why you have to have a kind of, not have to, but it's nice to have a person coaching you who's done it before, or who knows what they're doing, just to get you reacclimated, because all you can really do is be in the now in that moment of cold. And someone will say to you with short, direct, easeful language, what to do. And then you just follow it. And this way you don't have to think about it.
If you weren't there coaching me, there is no way I would have made it the whole 6 minutes.
I think that happens a lot to people on the first round, on the first time that they do it. But it's like, I always like to say, like, I haven't lost anyone yet, but it's like, what I mean by that is it's out of everybody, hundreds of people I put in the ice, there's like one or two people that have been like, I made it through a minute and said, I'd really like to get out, like in a way that I know as a coach, they want to get out. And honestly, both of those women there was no safety issue, right? It was like, that was their brain making them get out, not their body. And then they did another round later that same day. That was 3 minutes, no problem. So it's just about overcoming the brain talk, the thing that's going on in your head.
I started out cracking jokes. There was a time when I legitimately thought I was going to burst into tears. And I was like, oh shit, we're recording this for the podcast. If I have a mental breakdown in here, people are going to know.
Yeah. But you also were funny in the beginning, which I loved. And that's more rare, is that you got in and funny meaning like you laughed. And I was like, oh, this is an interesting response. Is it because we're mic'd? Is it because that's her initial response? Like, what I try to always look at people is as it goes in the ice, it goes in life. So like if something tragic or stressful or crazy is happening, you might have a moment where like your default is, let me just laugh about this first to relieve some of the tension, and then I'm going to deal with it.
Oh, 1,000%. I'm not going to say that I laugh at funerals, but like after Grandpa died, the family was cracking jokes. And
right.
Finding the absurdity in situations, you can always do that. And then you can laugh at that one absurd aspect of the horrible thing that you're currently going through. For me, that horrible thing was freezing my tits off. Putting my boot into the water was the worst. That was the absolute worst. Going under was very bad too. And you can hear it in the recording. It's like, I'm like, okay, you could go down now. And you're like, all of it? I have to put all of it in the water? I did though. I did it twice. And I will say, although I think that Tina did a much better job overall of instantly submersing the majority of her body in that icy cold water, I went under faster.
Yeah.
And I did that pretty quickly and without hesitation, because you don't want to hesitate, which I think is another great lesson in life too. When you decide to do something, you just do it. And then you take those steps, and whatever those steps are, in this case, it was committing to taking my ass in that cold bathtub and then putting my head underwater. You can like have anxiety about it and bitch and moan about it. That's just going to extend the misery. if you're just
yeah,
gonna...
by the time you're done worrying it, you could have done it. And also it's like sometimes it's just you're wasting the worry because there's no reason to worry. It's safe, it's fine. You know, you can step out anytime you want. You have all those things. It's a human test of you against you.
See, this is why I did taxes afterward.
Yeah. You're like, do the task.
Right? And I did it. And I was just like, oh, actually, that wasn't that bad. And I have to tell you, Tina and I were talking afterward. We felt great. Amazing. I've never gone skydiving, or at least I haven't yet. I imagine that's what it would feel like after you hit the ground and you're fine.
Yeah, because it's parasympathetic rebound is what we'd call it. It's your nervous system going, I just survived that. Oh my God. And then the cool thing is you and Teen doing it together and me being there, it creates this other chemical release of like when you do extreme things in community, which is called oxytocin. And oxytocin is like a bonding brain chemical, right? It's a bonding hormone that's produced in your brain. And so that's really interesting because what I see a lot, I think I mentioned this to you, is that sometimes like I under the radar will like video a little or record a little minute or two if it's a small group after people get out, because people get really uninhibited and really silly. And 2 girls were on my roof singing like Lion King. And I mean like corporate executive badass women coming out and being like, we survived and this is amazing. And, you know, you have that rebound and it just is like this really, it's one of the most beautiful moments of the whole ice bath experience for me as a coach to see that happen, because it's people in their innate state.
Yeah, we really trauma bonded, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
And it was a real trauma bond situation. I can confirm that. Has anybody lost their shit? Like I said, I really, for a second there, thought I was going to cry. And I was like, do people cry? And you said, no, usually only the men. And I said, oh, okay. And I got my sniveling.
I did it so much myself first. And the way that I took the ice bath on my entire time since day one was in a way that I was immediately drawn to it. And I immediately decided I would be good at it. And I think that that's part of the reason that I'm like, if there's a good at it, I don't even know that I'm going to be good at it, right? It's like, it's you set your intention first and then you stick to it. And I think there's something to be said for that from a mindset standpoint. Positive mindset, go do the thing. I have seen people have all different kinds of reactions. Some people want me to coach them through. Some people, I can tell quite quickly, I just have to get them to a calm breath and then I need to stop talking because they're going to punch me in the face. You know what I mean? It's like that's what makes a good coach too, is that you have to recognize and meet people where they're at and what it's just like managing people. It's every different kind of style. And the cool thing is like, yeah, I think I said to you, I had a couple men that I saw losing it and I slid on over to the trough at this group Ice Plunge and was like, hey, wow, you're big and strong. This is amazing. Because what happens is some kind of genetic, like I'm a straight man and the ice thing kicks in and this woman's watching me and now I have her form, right? And that helps whatever it takes, right? So I knew that would help with men more than even women, but also the company helps, right? There's someone witnessing you do it and it gives you a little extra motivation or maybe safety. You feel safe, so you sit in it longer. But yeah, like it's the interesting thing. I think I thought in the beginning of coaching that women who were like younger and vibrant were going to be like, yeah, I got this. I'm more daring. And they'd be quote unquote better or could stay in longer or would be more comfortable in the ice. And really it was the reverse, like the big powerhouse corporate execs and moms and people who have already dealt with a lot of stress and learned how to adapt to that stress well. Those are the people, which it makes sense now that we talk about it. Those are the women that tend to get in and then they're like, I got this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas like someone who's maybe like younger or less experienced in stressors of life or something is having a more challenging time. And that's not across the board, but it's just interesting to see personality, experience, adaptability, resiliency, like how that's built in people's bodies.
It's funny that you say that because I went back and listened to part of the audio from when Tina did the ice bath challenge. And this is going to be the next episode that we launch. I think we're going to launch them together, your interview and the ice bath experience. So people can
nice.
Both vibes, right? But I listened to Tina's section or a part of it. And at one point you said to her, you've got this, you're strong. And she was like, abso-fucking-lutely not. I do not have this. And then less than 30 seconds later, she was like, you know what? You're right. I am strong. I do have this. And it was like such a complete mental 180 that was, you got to hear it in the span of 30 seconds and under extreme duress. And I think that was really cool.
Yeah. And I also want to say to anyone who's listening, because when you say trauma and like the way we're talking about it, right, it's almost, I don't want to scare anyone out of doing it. It's really it's palpably, it shifts you palpably who you are and your mental energy, but anybody could get through this. Like, of course you have to, if you have medical conditions and your doctor should make sure you know, and then be approved to do it and all of that, because there are some contraindications, right? And pregnancy, I might not do it. You know, there's some issues with like blood pressure, some things to think about. But the reality is that when you get in the ice and you are, you know, tackling that cold, there is a period of 30 to 60 seconds, and you need to know this. Like, if you're going to try it, the most important thing to know is that first 30 to 60 seconds, your body doesn't know you're doing something healthy for it, for longevity and for 100 other amazing reasons for cellular health. Your body knows it's cold. I will die if I stay in this for an hour, so I need to get out. So your brain gets triggered. So that first 30 or 60 seconds, and this is part of the breathing process, is like you learn to down-regulate your breathing so you can talk your brain out of it, right? And there's a distinctive shift. For me, it happens about 30 seconds. For some people, it takes about up to 60. But I think you guys even felt it that day. It's like you hit that minute mark and your body all of a sudden goes, oh, okay, we're going to be in here for a little while. Let's re-regulate stuff. Let's shunt the blood. Let's turn off the crazy brain and let's be okay and figure out how to survive as long as we can in this temperature. And that shift is distinct. And it's a really important moment to get to in the ice, because if you miss that moment, you miss a part of the mental toughness benefit.
Yeah. As much as I'm bitching about how cold it was, like I said, 10 out of 10 would and will do it again. And to incorporate that into a routine, I think would be a really good thing for me. I mean, I felt so amazing afterward. I really did. And I was so proud of myself even during. Like, on one hand, yeah, it sucked physically and was very, very cold. I really just can't overstate how cold it was.
Yeah.
Stuff, you know? But so there was that aspect of it. But on the other hand, I was very proud of myself the entire time that I was in there, because I was doing the damn thing. You know,
Yeah.
I thought about it for a very long time. And there I was, finally, I'd put myself in a position to do it. It was really kind of like a bucket list item for me.
Yeah.
Actually, which is something that we focus on a lot on the podcast, is like, how do you challenge yourself? You know that this is good for you. The science says that it's good for you. You haven't even tried it. Why? Because you don't want to get cold. Do you have what it takes to submerge yourself in that icy ass water? You probably do. You won't know until you try, you know?
You won't know until you try. And then you get it done. And there's a lot of benefits. Like, I have some people, though, that will come and be like, I just really want this for my Instagram stories. And I'm like, okay, that's not really the reason to do it, but you'll get a great, weird, wacky photo. Everyone always thinks they're going to look glamorous and glorious, but it takes a minute to get to that state. But it's like, if I get someone who's like, I'll do it because I know I'm interested, but I'm really scared, but what's going to get me over the hump is Instagram, or telling my mom, or my boyfriend got too scared and won't do it, and I'm going to, like, whatever the thing is cool. Just get in it. And then people will go, oh shit, there's so much more to this than just that.
Okay. So we know that the ice bath is one of your favorite biohacks that you regularly participate in. And I think that we've done a pretty deep dive on why one might want to challenge themselves in that way. Let's talk about some of your other biohacking favorites, because you look fantastic.
Thanks.
It's another reason why I got in the water. I was just like, you know what, if Kristin does it and she looks like that, then who am I to say that that doesn't do good things? How old are you?
45.
You look like 32. I look at your Insta and I'm just like, oh, what's my excuse for this mom bod? And like, kind of hacking, what's the best way that maybe I can achieve some of those results? I take the cheat route, as I like to call it. So I do Botox and fillers to keep the face looking fresh. But like any other hack that doesn't require working out, I'm very, very interested in. So do you want to go through some of your favorite biohacks that keep you looking the way that you do?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the ones I want to touch on are just ones that are cheap and cheerful, let's just say, right? Meaning you don't have to spend a lot of money, because there are a lot of things in the biohacking world that cost astronomical amounts, or machine. Just if you want that machine and getting access to it is expensive. Mm-hmm. So I always tell people, we talked about cold a lot, but I always tell people if you can't do ice, like start with the 3-minute cold shower or I have clients start at 1 minute, then they go to 2 minutes, then they go to all cold all the time, step in, 3 minutes, step out. So that's important to know, is like, that's a way to like work yourself up, and it's free to do that. Another thing that's free and amazing is breath work. So I do a little breath work every morning when I get up, or sometimes when I feel stagnant in the middle of the day. And that's another great tool. You can put in the show notes, I'm sure. I told you about that. I have these 2 audio tracks if people want to do some guided breath work. One is super de-stressing. One is really like to pump you up for your day or pre-workout. And that'll give people a good understanding of maybe how they should be breathing. But the most important thing to know from a breathwork standpoint, to make yourself healthier without having to do physical exercise, is figuring out how to just breathe through your nose, inhale and exhale through your nose for the majority of your day.
You are a maniac about that. I have seen photos of you working out and doing sprints with your mouth taped shut. Why do you do that?
I won't go crazy, but with telling you all the science, but the basic gist is this. When you breathe in and out through your nose, a couple things are happening. You're getting more nitric oxide in the system, which is really good for a lot of reasons. It's a vasodilator. It helps with immunity, all the things. It is also, when you breathe through your nose, you're filtering the air and your temperature, like you're temping the air. You're creating, your nasal cavity creates the best air temperature for it to enter your body. And the filtration is also important for getting, filtering out any germs or BS that you don't want in your system. You breathe through your nose, you also get to the lower lobes of your lungs, which is where more of the blood is. Now, here's the point of breathing through your nose. Carbon dioxide is the vehicle to get oxygen into your blood. So oxygen's at a party and it's super lame and nothing's happening and the blood's hanging out there, but they're not going to mingle because it's the lamest party going. And then carbon dioxide is your DJ. And your DJ gets the shit going, and the vehicle to get the oxygen into the blood is the carbon dioxide. So you got to breathe through your nose in order to be able to create the right hold of people. We're all over breathing. So people are exhaling too much carbon dioxide and therefore less oxygen is getting into the blood. And that's why I tape my mouth shut, because I can pace myself with my mouth. And I'm not suggesting everybody do that for a workout, right? If you're big into fitness and performance, it's awesome, because I also tape my mouth shut when I sleep at night, because I'm training my body to nasal breathe more than I mouth breathe. And when I'm working out, I am trying to create a state of flow where I can work out as hard as possible, but only nasal breathing. So I'm getting enough oxygen. And if you do workout A with your mouth open or your regular breathing cadence, and you do that same workout a day later with your mouth taped shut, you'll see at the end of the workout, you will have gotten almost as much as the same work. You may have gotten to failure faster, but you will actually have a better workout, better recovery. And at the end of the workout, you won't feel like shit. You'll feel great because you worked out either way. But when you're done with a long workout, you're like, oh, that kicked my ass. Oh my God. So you have all of that. And if you tape your mouth shut, you like walk out of that 30 seconds later and you're like, I feel amazing. And it's a really different form of recovery and a really different way of training your body to be optimally high performance.
And what are adaptogens?
So adaptogens are something that you and I have talked about before, that are things that you can take that are natural, plant-based, like rhodiola, like medicinal mushrooms, like reishi, which people are probably really familiar with reishi. And those adaptogens are helping mitigate stress, but it's helping you with the level of exhaustion you have in your body from all the stressors that come in your life. So it's helping manage that quite a bit, right? It helps. Adaptogens across the board help with like de-stressing, fatigue, your mood, motivation to do fitness. In some studies, they've seen people being more motivated because they have the capability to adapt to the stress better.
And is that just a supplement that you take?
Yeah, they come in capsules, or this one brand that I use called Alpha Dynamics, which I really dig, is like a powdered single serve. So you can just throw it in your water. Although I will say that if you don't take it in a capsule, usually you just want to take it in 6 ounces of water because it's pretty earthy tasting, but it's just super bioavailable and gets into you, and it shifts the game.
Do you notice when you're on them or taking them versus when you're not? Is it a noticeable difference?
Yeah, for me, there's 2 things that I love the most. I notice when I'm taking rhodiola, I take rhodiola 3 times a day to sort of manage and balance my mood throughout the day, especially now when I'm in lockup like this. And then also the reishi, the brand of the reishi that I take, there's a spore oil. So it's this little pill you pop in your mouth. It's like oil legitimately, but it's 500 red reishi mushrooms pressed. It's just like it's a high potency reishi. And when I take that, I'm like, Shazam!
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you just take that as a one-off whenever you want the Shazam feeling, or do you do that every day?
Now the sport, well, I'm always trying to manage making sure that I'm spending, not going crazy with spending. So I'll take the spore oil when I want a little boost. I'm in the United States. I don't have the benefit of doing microdosing psilocybin or something, but it's like in my mind, it's like the closest I could get.
Okay. And can you compare it to anything? Would you compare it to caffeine?
Yeah. The thing is, you don't crash off of it. Like I could crash off of caffeine, although I try to like mitigate the crashes because I'll take like an L-theanine or some kind of amino acid that mixes with caffeine to give you another word. Another big word is nootropic, which is something that boosts your brain chemistry. So sometimes mushrooms have that. And then also you mix an amino acid and caffeine. So L-theanine and caffeine will give you like a heightened level of focus, and it will sort of stir the caffeine in a way that it doesn't feel like you crash so hard off of it. And if I take 2 L-theanine or I take some kind of nootropic blend that has L-theanine and a coffee, I'm good to go.
Would you compare it to like Adderall? Is it less strong?
It's less speedy than, I never took prescription Adderall for the right reasons. So
that's kind of what I was getting at. I didn't want to ask you, so like, you ever taken an Adderall? Have you had a friend who's taken an Adderall?
No, well, whatever. Like I've taken Adderall just because I've taken a lot of different types of drugs to try and see what the effects are from either like a brain function, body function, or like, let's be honest, when I'm 20 years old and I want to party all night. But I think predominantly from a self-experimentation standpoint, Adderall is really speedy. And there is very strongly something about, I would say that the reishi spore oil doesn't make me speedy. It just makes me super clear. It feels really clean. I feel like I can get stuff done. And I also feel like I'm not as bothered by interaction with stress, where I think the nootropics like L-theanine and there's a brand called Cognetics that has a few ingredients mixed together. So some of the nootropic products that are all natural that I will have with the caffeine, it feels a little more dopey, like a little bit more like speedy. And again, it's not a pharmaceutical. It's just, it depends on what you're trying to go for, right? And if you're already taking Adderall and you add these things to your life, you may not feel them as much. And I've also microdosed psilocybin when I was in Amsterdam during work portions of the course, and that's fine. It was like legal and stuff, whatever. But that was like the highest level of clarity and focus that I've had, because you're creating actual connections in your brain that last.
I'm fascinated by all of this. So the limitless drug, there's been a lot of talk of that. Are any of these adaptogens that you're talking about, what's the limitless drug, and is there like a drug cocktail that you can create to, make you smarter, more alert, all the good things?
It's hard for me to speak on the limitless cocktail just because I'm not as well versed on it as I am with all these other things that I've been trying and taking. But I think that everybody's physiology is different. And so that's the most important thing to kind of know first and foremost, is that it's always a self-experiment of one. Like Dave Asprey was like, hey, get people off of Adderall. I'm going to take modafinil. Modafinil was the original. That movie Limitless, like that was sort of based on the experiences people were having in the tech hub in San Francisco with modafinil. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting. It's also really hard. You got to script modafinil, and it is a pharmaceutical, and there are a couple on the market.
It's only available by prescription? Is that?
Yeah. Only available by prescription. And there are a couple drugs on the market that are like that have been it's like metformin. If 30, 40, 40 years, people have been using it. All the clinical trials are like, this is the safest pharmaceutical. It's also something for me, it feels like it was made back then before every single pharmaceutical company was just shysters. And so that's the kind of a drug that like I think that movie is based on. And I think, yes, more and more stuff is coming out from that whole vibe, but nootropics are where it's at. And you have to experiment with different things to see what works for you, right? What makes you, and from a dosage standpoint and from a what specific, natural substance is going to help you out. And, L-theanine is good for you. It's an amino acid. If you don't mix it with caffeine, it doesn't have the same effect, right? So you have to know enough of the science, or you have to be reading a little bit up on the substances and natural substances you're mixing together, or chemical, pharmaceutical, whatever it is, right? But I don't take any pharmaceuticals for the most part, unless like I have like an urgent situation. The doctor's like, you have to take an antibiotic for something.
If people have questions about this topic, I personally am totally fascinated by it. And I know that you have done a deep dive into all different areas, or a lot of them, as it pertains to biohacking. If people have questions in the Workationing Facebook group and tag you, would you jump in on the conversation?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I love to talk about this stuff. And it's sometimes, deep dive's cool, but sometimes it's like, let's just touch on it. And also, I don't always have to tell you 15 things. I can just answer the question based on my knowledge. So I'd love for people to tag me, Kristin Weitzel, inside that group.
Yeah, so if you guys have questions for Kristin about any of this, pop on over to the Workationing Facebook group. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/workationing. That's facebook.com/groups/workationing. And if you tag Kristin or tag me, I can tag Kristin. It's Kristin. She'll jump in and answer any questions or talk about her experience, because I know that, Kristin, you've done a ton of personal A/B testing, and you've isolated each of the, I guess, different hacks to see how they work for you independently.
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. And I take so many supplements too that now my supplement game is I make sure if I'm going to try something new that I take out anything that would heighten it, or if it's not a mandatory to take with it, I take out the things that would either heighten it or confuse the result. And I take that thing for 30 days, and sort of a lot of it is really about, intuitive feeling. But I do a lot of labs as well, depending on, what the topic is I'm trying to work on in my body, just to gut health or hormones or whatever. So yeah, I'm always experimenting with that stuff. And I have clients that are doing that too. And some intuitively, some with labs. So I can answer tons of questions on those, a nutritionist. So I get the basic gist of supplementation and food and all of that.
That kind of dovetails with aminos, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I try to say this to people, and I think especially women. First of all, everybody should have a workout or fitness regimen of at least 3 to 4 times a week of doing some kind of 45-minute plus activity that is not just walking. And part of that should be strength training for women. And the reality is, people ask me all the time, what's the one supplement I should be taking? And again, I'm not a doctor, but if you have major deficiencies, you have to fix those. But if people say, what's the one supplement I should be taking as I'm walking around in the world, I always suggest essential amino acids, because you need aminos. You need amino acids in your body, especially if you're working out. Every 5 to 6 hours, you got to get that protein, and amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So if you take them before a workout, they're readily available in your system when you're working out, and your body doesn't have to look for them, be hungry, or break down muscle tissue in order to get the energy. You don't want to break down muscle while you're working out. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to go buy some aminos, would they just go to a vitamin store and ask for essential amino acids?
They could, but I would always strongly advise against it, because there's so many fillers and different types of things on the market. If somebody wants to buy aminos, I always tell them to go to my Instagram profile and look at my bio link. And there's something called Kion Aminos, and they do not pay me to say this. I have tried a lot of amino brands, and there are a decent number of really well-sourced, highly bioavailable, meaning it can get into your system without just flushing through, amino acids. But you want essential amino acids, and I have tried a ton of brands, and I feel and see the effects long-term from taking Kion Aminos, Kion, and I have a link and yada, yada, you get a deal, whatever, but they're so important.
What's your Insta handle?
My Insta handle is @WarriorWomanMode.
And it's on fire, guys. Go follow.
You can see my highlights reel. You can see it says recovery with ice cubes. You can see in my highlights reel all the crazy ice plunging, and also tips and tricks there, how to crack the ice, how to temp it, what it looks like, how to add things. It's I have all the kind of instruction through those little videos.
There's a great photo of me in my leopard bathrobe, and I've got my hands over my face. And I was looking at the full cold bathtub of ice water, and that was the moment where I was like, you're either going to bitch out or you're going to do this, but what did you get yourself into? Why did you?
I also want to say, Kari, you were definitely, out of everyone I've ever put in the ice, you were the most glamorous before you got in that robe. It was great.
No, I like to dress up for ridiculous occasions. And I mean, I was trying to harness all of my inner leopard, because it took everything I had to get in that water. After seeing Tina just not enjoy herself. The first thing she said when she got out, though, is it was great. Who wouldn't want this?
Isn't it interesting? It's 3 minutes and you see someone take a turn so quickly.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I did it. I'm proud of myself for that.
You killed it. You crushed it. It was great.
You can see that photo over at Kristin's Insta, Warrior Woman Mode. And again, I get my fitness inspiration from you and lots of good tips. And you can check out that essential amino acid link in her bio. Fasting. Let's talk about fasting. I know that you're a fan of that. Is a biohacking technique that kind of anyone can do.
Yeah, there's something like called autophagy, which is turning your cells over. And I think fasting is like your body is getting a chance when you're not eating to actually recover, dig into different parts of your body and systems and sort of kill off the things that would eventually cause disease. But I think men are fasting like crazy. I mean, long hours, and they're much more stable hormonally. And so women, I'm really conservative with fasting in the sense that I tell women like 12 hours or so. But there's a couple intermittent fasting is what I'm talking about. There definitely is a capability if you wanted to do like a water fast for 48 hours or a day or something. I think that that's okay every so often, like a spring cleaning. But intermittent fasting is so hot right now. And if someone wants to get into it, it's not something you just want to drop into and do instantaneously every single day. I don't think. I think it's nice to start by scaling it, maybe picking 3 nights a week. You finish your dinner at 7 p.m. You don't eat again till lunch the next day. And like, it has to be an early enough lunch, right? So between sleep and then waking the next day, a lot of people are doing 15, 16-hour fasts. I try to have my clients do 12 hours, 13 hours, maybe, just to like not push the envelope too hard. I also like by 1 o'clock, if I go from dinner to 1 o'clock the next day, I'll start to get hangry. So it's like, but it's because I'm noticing it's more than even the sugar drop off or anything like that. It's not a blood sugar thing for me. I think it's really like a hormonal thing. And especially like in my age bracket, I want to keep my hormones as balanced as possible.
Cycle fitness is another thing that you and I have talked about. Do you want to explain to the people what that is and how they can benefit from it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is like a great thing too, especially if you're like at home, whether you're stuck at home now with this whole thing that's going on, or just generally if you're like working from home, maybe in a country that's not easy as access to a gym, or it's just stacked with people and not, there's more stuff going on outside in the world of pollution, etc. But it's cycle training or working with your cycle. There are plenty of people that have written books and stuff on best ways, like when to do negotiation and when to do discussions and when to like lay back based on your period and cycle. And they're like Alyssa Vitti's someone who's got a really great book called Flow about that and other things. But what I do with women, and I think is super important, is we can optimize and biohack our cycle. But, if you're a menstruating female, if you get your period every month, you have this amazing superpower. So if I say that day 1 is your period, day 1 of your cycle is day 1 of your period, by day 2 or 3 of your period, you have this huge estrogen spike that happens, and that lasts till about 12 or 14 days. So when we have estrogen in our system, we need to take the opportunity to actually do more working out and more strength training. Now that feels counterintuitive, of course, because we all want to climb into our electric blanket and huddle down. But I push the women I work with by day 3 of their period to get up and get out and do strength training to both alleviate any cramps or issues, to get the lymph moving, and then also, and most importantly, and scientifically backed by hundreds of studies, in the 12 days from about day 3 to day 14, 15 of your cycle, you can build 25 to 45% more isometric force, power, and muscle mass in those days versus the other days of the month. So if I told anybody on the planet, here's 12 days a month that you can work out and get like up to almost double the amount of capability from your workouts, like when are you going to work out? Probably those days. And so we have to utilize that, right? Like that's it's such a game changer in that whole piece. And then the other thing that coincides with that is when we have high levels of estrogen in our body, we actually have a better opportunity. Our muscles uptake glucose better, so it's healthy carbohydrates, not like candy and ice cream cake, but sweet potatoes, rice, quinoa, things like that. Our muscles love to have those healthy carbohydrates. And just coincidentally, with the magic of our biology, the estrogen makes it so we can work out harder, make more muscle, and then we can actually utilize glucose from those carbs that we're eating in those days better too, which means like we are muscle making machines for the 12 days. Let's get after it.
I've never heard that before, but it makes sense. And apparently studies show the scientists are in agreement on that. So like, yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's amazing to me. We don't have that as like my OBGYN, my general practitioner. No one ever told me that. Those studies have been out since the 80s, since I was young. It's crazy. I think there's like just shame, or like people don't talk about your period and how to, work with it or something, or they haven't for in a widespread way for a very long time. And so we need to get the word out. Like we did yesterday. I even did like a mini IGTV on it, because I just want people to share that with other women so that we can all optimize our health and fitness and well-being in the best way possible, so we can, be warriors. That's where I got the name of the business.
Well, speaking of ladies biohacking strategies, you and I are both fans of the Yarlap. We actually had an episode of the Workationing podcast. I think it's episode 9 or 10, about the gift that keeps on giving, the Yarlap. And you and I are both friends with Mary Ellen, who runs the company. The Yarlap is a little medical device. It's a TENS, TENS.
It's an electrode machine.
But essentially it helps you, it makes
like electrostimulus or something. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And so you put the Yarlap in your hoo-ha, and it's connected to a little Game Boy-like device, and it helps you do Kegels, strengthening your pelvic floor. That doesn't sound very sexy. What is very sexy is that it has been FDA cleared, I think, to say that it helps cure urinary incontinence in women. So by strengthening your pelvic floor, if you're like peeing a little bit when you cough or when you laugh, or sometimes you just like can't quite make it all the way to the toilet before you start to sprinkle, the Yarlap can help you solve that problem without surgery, which is huge.
Yeah, and I feel like my clients have issues like after they've had babies, 1 or 2 kids or whatever, they're having that challenge and they're wanting to do a lot of fitness and jumping up and down, cardio or HIIT, and then they're like, oh, I just peed myself in boxing. So
yeah, it's something 30% of women have this issue, but they're too embarrassed to talk to their doctors about it. That's like one thing that you wouldn't tell your girlfriends, probably.
Yeah.
I occasionally pee myself. You've got to be really close friends to have that type of conversation. But it's something that a lot of mothers deal with. Runners deal with it because of the repetitive, like pounding on the pavement.
Yeah.
Gymnasts, apparently, it's an issue that they experience a lot. So this Yarlap, in addition to getting you ready for a ping pong show in Tijuana, should you choose to go that route.
I think there's a big sexual health component, right? For sure. Like it's a game changer when it comes to sort of women's sexual health and potentially just your prowess and how you're feeling about, sexual stimulation as well. And, if you're feeling comfortable and confident with all of those other parts, or if you're having a little bit of leakiness or whatever, and that's getting solved by this, like crushing walnuts is next.
Oh my God. I've never heard of that before, but that's a hilarious visual. The Yarlap has actually been FDA cleared to say, and it's so hard for any medical device to get this type of clearance, it improves or enhances sexual expression in women.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys, come to your own conclusion about what exactly that means. But again, back to crushing walnuts. It does crazy things. And the Yarlap people are kind enough to, if you're interested in checking it out, ladies or guys, buy one for your girl.
Oh yeah, that is a Valentine's. What's the next holiday coming up? That's the best gift you could give a woman ever.
I'm not even kidding. I'll tell you who it was when we are no longer recording this episode. But a guy got me and Kelly Yarlaps when we first started workationing. That's how we got introduced to the Yarlap.
Nice.
And then both of us became Insta fans. So guys, you can totally buy one for your girl. But if you do and you use coupon code workationing, you'll save, I think, $50. And it's a good investment, I would say. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Have you heard
11 out of 10.
Right? I can't wait, Kristin. You're going to hear some like killer feedback from your clients once they have used it for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's fun girl talk conversation. I don't know if this dovetails necessarily, but what's the worst biohacking experiment you've ever done?
I think the worst biohacking experiment was, and you know, it's on me for sure, but it's also like, it was a recommendation from a nurse working with a medical practitioner. I thought I respected, I respect, you know, whatever. It was just like a misdiagnosis or something, but she's like wearing a white lab coat. And I just think that that's an important point, because I don't tend to listen easily, right? But there's this like sort of state of authority from the white lab coat syndrome, where someone who's a doctor is telling you to do something, or a nurse is telling you to do something, and you're just like, oh, I got to do it because that they're credible in that outfit. And so it was a really good lesson. I went on sort of like this high dose DHEA because someone had said to me after a workout or whatever, like, when you test, this is an important piece, which is like, you take your blood, you take your hormone profile, you do anything. It is just giving you a moment in time. And it may be that day that something is off, right? It's like, you have to kind of test and retest to be sure. And this is a prime example. I went on a heavy dosage of DHEA, which is the precursor to creating estrogen in your system. And it's also it also happens to be the precursor that will create testosterone in your system. And so what happened to me was like what would happen to someone who was taking DHEA to work out, or like just to supplement to try to build more muscle or do something like that, is you have this terrible, and you've seen it sometimes on, like back in the day with the gym head guys even, is you get this like terrible breakout of acne all over your body. And so talk about a misdiagnosis. And I did DHEA. I mean, then they wanted me to even stay on it. When I went back to them and said, I don't know what's going on, I'm breaking out like a teenager. And I took myself off of it after like 60 days. I put myself on a machine instead of a supplement, actually, to be able to kind of clean up the acne and balance the hormones, because I didn't need the DHEA. And that's like so frustrating. But now tons of women learn from that. It was a failure, but like I learned something from it that I'm really particular about, which is how women hormone profile, like how they test their sex hormones and what they're taking and doing.
How much does all of this cost between your supplements and whatever additional activities that you might do? So like at float therapy, we did an episode on the podcast. It was a bucket list episode, floating in an isolation tank. I know that biohackers are big on that type of activity. Also cryotherapy.
I mean, it's like, it can be expensive if you're like dropping in. Cryotherapy can be as much as $50 a session, which is why I suggest to people, go take a 3-minute cold shower. It's free, or get yourself an ice bath somewhere in your house, or you could do it in your tub. Not every kind of tub is deep enough, but it's like, I'm not knocking cryotherapy. I just think if you don't have a good deal to access it, or like easy way to access it inexpensively, then figure out a way that you can kind of get the benefits from something you can do at home.
Does a totally cold shower have the same kind of impact? Obviously, we discussed like a cold shower doesn't have the long-term impact.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure that there's clinical studies that compare the two in some way, but those are both short-term solutions. So that's why I feel like whatever it takes, man, just get an ice bath in your house. Just do it once a week. Like, the good protocol to start is like a once a week if you can get it done. That's a really nice way to do it. Like, my preference for me is to do 2 a week. I feel the best when I'm doing that. But yeah, like from a cost standpoint, I always tell people, any labs you can get, any doctor who's your general practitioner, if you have any issues going on, any labs you can get covered by insurance, if you have that capability, get them covered. And then like lots of these machines and things and stuff to go trial, it can cost a bit of money. It's why we talked about things that are relatively easy hacks on this episode. But also from a supplementation standpoint, I tell people, like, there are the main, whatever you're really deficient in, which quite often is D. Magnesium is an amazing supplement to take. Amino acids are a must in my book. And if you get a decent brand, like a Thorne or like a Primal Blueprint type of multivitamin, like, you don't need to go beyond that, right? You want to make sure it's a good, well-sourced, bioavailable supplement. But I take a lot of supplements, like 65 pills a day or something. You take
65 pills a day?
Yeah, I cycle supplements because you always should. And some of my stuff aren't pills. It's like a nasal inhaler, or it's a sublingual or something like that. But the point for me is I'm looking for the last 10%. So I talk to people about supplementation, and it's like must have, nice to have, last 10%. A lot of the costs sit in that last 10% bucket, or maybe the nice to have. Like, get your must haves. And also, like, if you take all the right supplements, but you eat at McDonald's every day, no offense, McDonald's, you're not doing yourself any service anyways. Clean up your diet enough, get on some basic supplements, and it doesn't have to be so costly.
I just pulled out of my drawer here. It looks like a drug baggie. It's got a QR code on it, which I haven't scanned because it's a QR code.
Yeah.
But it's for, and I know you left this baggie at my house, Kristin, Blue Cannatine. What is this? This is not a weed baggie, right? This is legal in the US?
Oh yeah, it's like the little black slider case for Blue Cannatine.
Yeah. So what is Blue Cannatine? Because
So
I know we talked about it, but I thought that people might want to
so
hear.
yeah, it's really amazing. It is. You can see a lot on their website. It's one of the first kinds of brands. It's one of the first kinds of brands that's doing this, and it's just really kind of launched enough that you can get access to it anywhere in the world. And it's like methylene blue, so they call it like a nootropic, a Smurf nootropic. So they call it like, I forget what their hashtag is, but it's nootropic smurfing or something. But what happens is you put it in the left side of your mouth, it's like a troche. So you break off a little square, you put it in your...
What is a troche?
A troche is like a little square thing that will dissolve in your mouth. Does that make sense?
Would you compare it to an acid tab or breaking off a hunk of hash?
Sort of a cross between the two. Oh, Smurf,
Okay.
and their hashtag is Smurf nootropic. So it's like blue is the new smart. Like it's cool because it has this blue in it, which is ritual, right? And then people have all these pictures sticking out their tongue and it's like half blue. And it's got like methylene blue and it's got a little nicotine in it and it's got some things in it. Like, again, it's not anything to do with like smoking or getting high or whatever. It's for brain power, right? It's for clarity and focus, a heightened level of focus. And you can like get it on their website. The company is called Troscriptions, but it's just, yeah, it's awesome. It gives you like a lot of energy and it's good for mental performance. And it's another one of those things. Remember you said like, does it make you feel like Speedy or Adderall? It's Blue Cannatine. And it's great you brought this up because this is sort of the one that I missed. It isn't microdosing psilocybin in that exact way, but it also isn't like, just like having an L-theanine and caffeine. It's like, it's its own sort of category and it's got some great brain power in it. A lot of people talk about like their spelling is better. They're like verbally really clear and it's like no jitters, no weird withdrawal stuff, no like addictive quality whatsoever. So that's it's cool because it comes in this little black slider case, which is probably what you have there. And it's empty for obvious reasons.
No. Like what I'm looking at, it's like a clear plastic. Well, it's tinged blue.
Oh, that's the single serve. Yeah, it's like an empty plastic baggie, right? So it was a single serve troche or a single serve square in there that's like their sample size. Because I had a guy over for when I recorded at your house who brought me one of those and was like, "This is perfect before we record. Let's have one and we'll both feel really like ready to chat."
Well, next time you record a podcast episode with that guy, tell him to bring an extra sample for your dear friend Kari.
He lives there. Yeah, he lives there. I'll tell him to give you the hookup.
Yeah, no, I'll check out their website and order it online. If you guys want to check it out at home, it's BLUE and then new word CANNATINE. I'm learning all kinds of new stuff throughout this conversation, what a troche is, Blue Cannatine. I feel very cutting edge right now. It's like when I learned the word yeet. So yeet, tell me what is like the hip new biohacking. Is it this Blue Cannatine? What are the cool
This Blue Cannatine is like because it's like a CBD nicotine caffeine mix, this methylated. That's sort of the new hotness when it comes to sort of not wildly expensive and all of that. I also think that there's like, people are still doing red light therapy, and I have a device called the Flex Beam, which is really great for home because it's easy and small and not so expensive. And then I can get red light therapy anywhere I want it. It's pretty targeted, but also most red light therapy devices you have to stand really close to and you can't move or whatever. And the Flex Beam like literally Velcro straps to your body so I can walk around the house.
How much is that? Ballpark.
That one, I think it's like $299, and I'm sure they just launched. I'm sure they're running some kind of a deal on it, but it's called the Flex Beam, and you plug it in and recharge it. Like you buy it, it's yours forever. So if you thought about going to like a red light place to pay $35 to $50 a session, you're gonna spend that much money easily anyway.
Oh, I have to read this. It says the question is, how will Blue Cannatine be sold? And it says, is a pack of 4 buccal troches. Each troche will be scored so that you can take a quarter, a half, 3/4, or a full troche for your #limitless experience. If you are a biohacker or have taken multiple nootropics in the past, we recommend that you start with a full troche. If you're new, maybe start with a quarter and don't drink caffeine.
But this is amazing because it's so like serendipitous that you found that little baggie, which is, I better clean up after myself. I hope that there's not baggies and condom wrappers everywhere. But it's like, well, also the funny thing was, you remember your cat got into all my supplements and was just like, I love these.
Oh my God, you know, Keller decided to go on a biohacking experience, but she was also she's going to make an appearance in the episode where the listeners get to hear us go into the water. She came in and had some things to say at some point. But
yeah, this is like a piece of that limitless question that you asked, and it's a really good, so it's like serendipitous you found the wrapper, because it's a lot of your audience is like out there working in this is workationing, right? So they're working in all these different various places where there's great stuff going on, but maybe big distractions. And so this is the type of, if you're going to be having a big client pitch, or you got to like just dig in and get some work done. It's the thing that sort of boxes out the rest of it, so you can have like a high level of energy, brain power, and focus for your day or for those few hours. And it's like, of course, like try it first before you get on your big client pitch phone call. But also it's, what a great way to serve your own business day, to be able to really hunker down and get the work done, so you get out into the wonderful place that you live.
I'm super psyched that I saved that drug baggie.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you about it. I was like, what is this? I was like, Kristin, I've never even heard of this one.
Yeah, the official launch happened when I was there, and that's why it was also awesome to have Boomer Anderson, is his name, come over and bring me some, because it launched, and in its first like 2 days of launch, they sold out, and then it was 2 weeks or something until they could re-up enough to fulfill orders. So it was just, it was like a hot topic, because they've been trying to get enough in the production line to make it all happen. So, and it's also, they have to go through some hoops in all the countries and stuff, because it's a specific, has some nicotine in it, whatever.
Right. Oh, I'm definitely checking this out. I'm going to stock up now that I know that they're running out,
Yeah.
What if I like it? Where can people catch your podcast?
Oh, this is so exciting. Yeah, because the podcast is launching. The podcast is called Wellpower Podcast. And so there's a wellpowerpodcast.com, but also it's on all the major listening resources. And I've been punching a little bit about it now, but a lot will start to go up on either Instagram at Wellpower Podcast, or, you'll see it on the Warrior Woman Mode stuff too. It's the Biohacking Road Map, right? So the ultimate Biohacking Road Map, to be able to give you like the 101, 201 on stuff like we're talking about right now, right? So I have an episode with somebody, like I just recently did an episode with this amazing ice bath company. So here, this builds into cost, Kari, is like, you want to go for like the platinum ice bath. It's like a $7,000 or $8,000 ice bath by this company that's called Morosco Forge. But you plug it in and you never have to do anything. You put water in it. It keeps it chilled. It filters it. It's like ozone. It's got everything. It's in a beautiful sweet case. It could be indoor, outdoor, it's like it's the Rolls Royce of ice plunges. It's like, you got to like it. You got to like an ice plunge in order to go for that kind of a thing. So you can always spend insane amount of dollars, but that's sort of my dream for 2020, is show you how much I like the ice plunges. I'm like, okay, I'm going to save every penny I have until I could get one of these Morosco Forges for my rooftop, and I never have to schlep ice again.
And you coach people too, in addition to your podcast and your Fire Instagram. Do you want to talk about the type of coaching that you do and the types of people that you coach?
Yeah, for sure. My client base is females. It's not that I don't love working with men. I think there are plenty of coaches out there to work with men, and I work with women to switch on their optimal wellness. And what that means is the big areas we focus on, because a lot of women do come to me to lose fat. I never say lose weight, because there is a difference. We don't want to necessarily lose weight or burn muscle. We want to lose fat on our bodies if we feel like we want to get smaller. But I work with women heavily around nutrition, customizing nutrition programs, getting them a bit more into the breath work, the cold showers, the things that they're going to optimize the wellness and cellular health, managing their sleep, all of those pieces of the puzzle, as well as making sure their fitness programming is correct, so that they can actually, given their own physiology, have the biggest losses or gains, if you will, in their health and getting them optimally well. And that process is really, like, if anyone listening is super interested, and you're like, my time is now, I have to change the game in order to make myself feel amazing. I predominantly work with women in a very high touch sense. So it's like, we have daily contact in some way, even if it's just a text. We are going through every single part of your life to make sure it's the very best place it can be. And then I'm coaching you, and I'm there to be like your biggest cheerleader and your biggest accountability partner for a period of 8 weeks. So that's traditionally how I work with women. The podcast is launching. There's some little online courses that are launching here and there. So like, there's a lot of support tools and things like that. But yeah, I love to work one-on-one with people because I think it's where you make I make the biggest impact, and then I can teach you how to do it so that at the end of 8 weeks, it's like, here's your maintenance plan, high five, hit me with questions if you got stuck. And then you just know you have someone in your corner to make you the most powerful woman you can be.
I am so psyched that you stayed at my house, that we did the ice bath challenge, and that you were kind enough to bring all of your experience and knowledge to the podcast, because I think that if people, a lot of our audience, digital nomad types, or people who are interested in living life in a unique way and really optimizing their life experience, optimizing your health experience, and in a very scientific, intelligent way, who isn't interested in that? And
yeah, like we want to have better health in shorter time. And also, you know, everyone who's listening is all over the world. And a lot of the coaching that I do is digital through Zoom and through all the technology that we have. And your listeners are so good at using already.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear feedback about this episode. And if people have additional questions, they can ping you on the Workationing Facebook group. Guys, you can tag me, and I will tag Kristin in. And also, Kristin, I'd love to have you back for a follow-up episode, maybe Biohacking 102, if this was 101.
Yeah, for sure. It was good. We dove in deep. We probably got some 102 stuff, but we can get to like the 201 and just pick a couple things, like a topic that's super nerdy for people who really want to take it to the next level.
I would love to do that. So thanks again, and stay tuned, guys. After this episode, or the very next episode that follows, you can hear Kristin coach Tina and I through submerging ourselves in very cold water.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It was awesome.
Thanks.
What the fuck is Blue Cannatine?
I hear all the cool kids in Silicon Valley are doing it.
What else do we need to... Sorry.
Doing it.
They're doing it.